Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to another episode of Living Theosophy. I have to tell you that this beautiful soul that we have on tonight, this is such a gift to be able to be with her, coming to us live from Hawaii. Let me tell you a little bit about what we have going on tonight. Now, you're welcome to be in the chat. This will be premiered, so we'll be with you in the chat. Please feel free to comment. And I highly suggest, please, if you like this, share it, because there are many people who need to hear what this beautiful girl is going to share with us today. Erin Paris is a professional wedding photographer, director, and an amateur metaphysics philosopher, studying the infinite esotericism and ontological mathematics. Now, she's in Hawaii right now, and she's on a mission to help people find beauty, rational reality through her anti-traditional work in weddings, and how I met her on her TikToks, which I'm going to show you in a moment, on metaphysics and enlightenment. Now, I'm going to put her links down below. I want you to give her a follow on all the things. She is erinparis.hi on Insta, and her website is erinparis.com, and Mystic Ceremony and at Infinite Erin on TikTok. Now, again, those will be down below. I found her at Infinite Erin. She is inspirational. She is brave, and her TikToks are out of this world. I'm not kidding. I believe this is exactly what we're talking about here on Living Theosophy. What Erin is doing is what it's all about. Remember that Theosophy is not a divisive religion. It is ancient divine science and divine knowledge. This beautiful soul is doing it naturally, organically. This is our first time together. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Erin Paris. Hi, Erin.
Hello.
Oh.
Hello to all of you souls out there, infinite beings.
Oh, bless you, honey. I'm so grateful to have you here. And before we get too far along, I have to show them what it was that I fell in love with you about. So let's take a look at a few of Erin's TikToks, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Here we go.
Have you ever wondered if all of the world's religions, spiritualities, philosophies, and possibly even science itself are all trying to describe one singular thing? You may or may not even be aware that there is a name for that concept. It's called universalism. And there's actually many different factions of it and philosophies that build upon it. For example, Unitarian Universalism focuses on practicing spirituality through understanding a variety of different religious beliefs. Christian Universalism asserts that we are all God's children trying to understand God, and that because of that, we will all eventually get to heaven. Spiral dynamics and integral theory, which is what I subscribe to, are universalist philosophies that attempt to understand different ideologies based on just how universalist they are. I find universalism to be an extremely healthy ideology because it helps us focus on what unites us rather than what divides. We're called to love the sinner and hate the sin. No, you're not. It doesn't say to do that anywhere in the Bible. It doesn't even say that God hates sin. Jesus doesn't hate anything. You just say that as an excuse to hate. Principle 1. The entire universe is mind. All things are information, and they correlate to other bits of information. All things are thoughts, and all thoughts are things. In that sense, everything is alive.
So she's here with us today, and it's late for her. She's up, it's 2:30 in the morning where she's at, almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Erin, you are from Hawaii, and were you born there in Hawaii?
I was, yes.
Which island are you at?
So I'm from Oahu. I'm from a little town called Kailua. It's my home. It's really small, so it almost feels like the back of my hand a little bit,
Well, I'm telling you, there's a light that radiates from within you that is so refreshing, and you're humble, and you are of service to humanity. This crushing compassion that you bring through in your TikToks, I wanted you to tell me, because if you know nothing about the ancient teachings of Theosophy, remember, it's not divisive, but these ancient teachings through the Kabbalah, through the American Indians, through the philosophers, through all of this, how did you get to be so wise at such a young age?
Oh, goodness. Well, so my story actually really starts in the absolute depth void sorrow and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go too much into what brought me to the point where I almost took my life, but I had made that decision. I had absolutely made that, when you're talking about suicide, when somebody becomes suicidal, it no longer becomes a maybe. Once you've made that decision, you recognize that it's final. And I had made that decision, and I was in the process of, committing the act. And I was caught and put on watch. And that evening, while I was on watch, I was just sitting there crying and crying. I was by myself, but I was like looking into the pits of the absolute darkness, of the pure, complete, and utter darkness of nothingness, the void, the nothingness. Mm. And I was trying desperately to get there. I wanted nothing more to get there. And all of a sudden, I realized that it was like looking down into a tunnel, but it was like gray, right? I was in this kind of like grayness of, what's the word I'm looking for? The purgatory, right? Mm-hmm. It's in this purgatory. And I realized, I was like, well, okay, that's dark. This is gray. So is there something behind me? And it was almost maybe like a tap on the shoulder, or just something told me, just turn around and see what it is that is behind you. And I think you know what it is that I saw. My eyes were closed within my own mind, my perception. I turned around and I saw the light, and I realized that it was pure, acceptance, pure isness, pure enlightenment, joy, wonder, all of that. And so I realized that I had gotten a second chance, and that in that second chance, I had to make that choice, whether it was going to be the darkness or whether it was going to be the light. So anyways, that was 15 years ago. And it has not been, an easy journey, but I have definitely, I've learned just an unbelievable amount of information in this journey of trying to reach the highest, and that's the wonderful, beautiful thing about the highest as well, is that within this finite, existence of imperfect, imperfectness, it's infinite, you cannot reach the highest, the highest will always elude us. Mm-hmm. And it's not a matter of reaching it. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of reaching to it, of lifting up and kind of like, like Superman,
The way you describe things, Erin, it comes naturally through you. The things that you are saying are absolutely synonymous with what we've been studying and talking about forever. I just don't, the way that how do you know that you know? I know that pain is the usher of wisdom, and you had this beautiful moment. Was it from that point? Were you in a religious family prior to that?
I had kind of delved in religion. I feel like I've always kind of been a much more deep. I've been a deep thinker. Like even when I was a child, I was having thoughts about space-time and about, like just kind of weird things that I feel like maybe not every kid has this kind of thing, and I got into like Wicca, and then I got into Christianity. I started studying Buddhism, Hinduism, anything that said we have the answer to joy. I just checked it out. I educated myself on it. And, I think in this process now, I've kind of started to, suck out all of the objective the more objective truths. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, is there are these objective truths that all of these different systems are kind of trying to kind of piece together. I will say though, it's hard because a system is still a system. It's not the entire truth. Right. And so we have to look beyond the systems to what we would call in what I'm studying now, the ontological reality, which is more the objective embodiment of the infinite mathematical reality. And these systems are just kind of trying to like derive these higher level truths. So yes.
How is it that you have this wanting to be of service? You want to give these out into the world, and you're willing to take all the grief that comes from all the organized religions that have an issue with it. The stuff that you come out with is, like I said at the beginning, is brave. But what is it about what you're learning, but you want to be proactive and you want to share with others? Where does that come from? What is the drive behind that? Because many people want to keep it for themselves and they just do their thing, but you have been bringing it proactively out into the civilization.
It's the suffering that I went through. It's the black hole and wanting to show people that there is another option, that I just don't ever want anybody to feel the way that I felt. And it doesn't come from inside of you. That kind of feeling does not come from in here. It comes from the voices of others. It comes from the voice of society, the voice of, these people who, their ego, they have to tear you down in order to build themselves up. And I don't want anybody to suffer from that. I want everybody to be able to find the universal objective truth that is within them, that they can rationally discover.
Oh, God. I wish I had a sound effect for a roaring stadium of 70,000 people. Holy crap. Yes. 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 You can see by the TikToks what it was that connected us. I think we were talking about omnism. The term omnism is, I think, I'm not sure where we met.
Omnism is a very interesting philosophy as well, and I definitely do hold to omnism to a certain extent, though, because I do feel that, there are definitely some religions and ideologies that are speaking about things that could potentially not be considered universal truth.
Oh, there you go. See, good. Yeah. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because for those who are watching that might not know what omnism is, my understanding is it's a term coined in the 19th century that means that all of the religions, looking at all the religions. So all of the religions have some of the truth, but not one religion has all of the truth. And that's all it is. It's not a dogma. It's not a church. It's not people can say I'm an omnist, but it just means that, you smell BS and you're like, well, nah, maybe some of that, that there's much a bigger picture than just a mono religion. That's all it means to me. So on the video that I did on omnism, people are like, oh, I'm an omnist. I'm like, no, wait. There's more to the story. So I'm glad that you explained that. When I was in America a while back, I was able to see for the first time ever in North Dakota, there was a video that a commercial that came up for the Freedom from Religion. It's the thing with Ron Reagan Jr. I didn't even know that existed. And I believe that I was like, yes, that is a good. We shouldn't have to suffer from other people's beliefs. They're just beliefs coming in, telling us how we should act. Right. And I know what's really big right now. And on TikTok, Erin, there are people today that are preaching fire and brimstone. And there is a comment section full of amens. And the year is 2021 talking about, and I'm baffled by this. I just don't know what is happening. Would you like to share a little bit about what you see? Because I'm sure you're on there seeing the same thing.
Yeah. So, it's a system of delusion, ultimately, is what it is. Like I had mentioned, my big thing is understanding the universal truth that underlies all of of reality, this existence that we are experiencing now. And what it unfortunately has happened is a lot of these people, they're not really realizing where their system comes from. Their system, Christianity, comes from a tribal, feudal environment. The ancient Judaic environment was brutal. It was extremely brutal. I mean, I hate to use the term unenlightened, but I feel like, that would be highly accurate. Where we are now in our wisdom, in our able to ration, we are in a much more reasonable place as humanity. Yet we have these people holding on to these beliefs that come from feudalism, comes from tribalism. They have been deluded into thinking that these are objective truths. It really comes from the top, really comes from the people in power that have enabled these kinds of systems to be perpetuated, not enabled, but have actively perpetuated these systems in order to keep people kind of tied into this systematic lifestyles, and fighting each other rather than enlightening themselves and transcending the materialistic reality, which they use to enslave us. I mean, basically, right? And we're all hip to this on this channel, right?
Yes, yes. I find that extremely inspiring that you're taking these to, again, TikTok, which is a massive platform, now a billion active users, if not more. It's climbing every day. Erin is spending time making these nuggets of wisdom to send them out into the world so that people may, scrolling through might actually be able to learn something. And it was just such a beautiful thing to see on there, because I'm thinking this is a brilliant platform to connect with the world. What would you say, as far as the comment section, what kind of feedback are you getting? Are you getting people that are saying, I want to learn more? How do I learn more? What would you tell me? If I'm not finding my answers in the church, what is your answer to those who write in?
It's interesting. I feel like I definitely, I have a very particular audience, and there are people on two ends that do not necessarily agree with me. On one end, we have the indoctrinated religious types who, they have this objective, delusion. It's a delusional objectivism. And then we also have the scientific materialist types, the atheistic types. What happens is, because they are so tied to, can I measure it? Can I use it for anything useful? As a tool, and then they kind of push back on me as well. And then I also have the spiritual egoists that are like, like I can't believe people don't even know about this. Like I know about it. And it's just like, but then I do have the people that get it. It's interesting though, because as the love, of course, resonates with me, but it's the ones that have these kind of like negative, kind of egoist responses that, they tend to be jarring. So they tend to get a little bit more of my attention.
You're very delicate with your answers.
You must know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yes. There's quite a bit of, and I'm not here to change anybody's mind. The most important thing is I'd like to be like a signpost to say, this really helped me. This helped me in such a huge way. It changed everything about my life. I highly recommend you look into it, because it literally could help you as well. And that's it. I'm not selling anything but compassion. Everything is free that I do out on these channels. These teachings, though called Theosophy, Theos meaning God, Sophia meaning wisdom, the ancient wisdom of the gods. It is timeless, and it is not something that you have to join. You don't have to pay anything. There's no leaders. It's not a cult. It's simply a way of living that has to do with nature is the true church. Your You're the temple. Everything takes place inside of you. And there's more to the story than what we currently know. That's it. So if you want to learn more, you can come on this channel and listen to the books that I put on here, or you can just Google it. But just know that I was lost and I literally was crashing and burning, found these during a time of great psychological pain, great pain, and they helped me. That's all. And so I understand. And that's why I see what you're doing. And it is invaluable for those who are hungry, because I think now that we're able to talk to each other on the internet, where there's now a connection all over the world, we're now going, hey, maybe there's, maybe it's not just our local church or our local newspaper or local television show. There's way more. And so people are going to say, where is it?
The fact that we're all talking and that we're all kind of exchanging all this information. This is another reason why I'm still just mind blown at all of these evangelicals out there, because it's not like they don't have access to it. And those of us that are all talking about it, we're all kind of sharing the information on how irrational all of this stuff is. And we're telling it, we're presenting it to them right there. Like, you guys, look, look at how irrational this is. Yeah. And it's like, no, don't take my blanket away. You're going to go to hell.
Yeah. And they're actually on there saying that hell is a very real thing, and hell, an actual hell of torment and physical torture. And I believe that where we are at right now, this planet, it talks about in the Theosophical teachings, this is a place of great suffering, and it is man that is the most evil. And we are here now in hell, actually. But this is for us to overcome that. Yeah, see, look at you nodding your head. When I first heard that, I'm like, yes, it just makes sense. And so, so we need to, the work is done here, not in fear of a loving God who, if you didn't do something you didn't know you shouldn't, is going to throw you in the fireplace forever. I mean, come on, it's 2021. How are we still here? But it isn't just the Christians. I'm not going to say it's just Christians. It's the organized religions that divide. That's it. We're not trying to say anybody is a bad person, but if you motivate by fear and torture and murder, then you might fall into that category.
Well, it's like fairy tale. It's funny because it's like, oh, they're gonna laugh at the pagans with their mythology, like as if what you are following isn't mythology.
Yeah, it is mythology. It's terrible.
But to go back along, to tie this in with your question though, what is my ethos? Okay. So after I had my first kind of bout of enlightenment, of realizing that enlightenment was a possibility, that it was something that I could kind of journey towards. And I started, learning, and I started, looking into all of these things. One of the things that I really started looking into was, science and the universe. What is out there? Wow, what is this crazy universe? Learning about the limits of perception, the limits of space-time, of our ability to view space-time. And I watched this one series. It was a documentary by Stephen Hawking. And after the series ended, he kind of ended it on this poetic note of we don't really know what else is out there. And I just kind of took it a step further, and I had what I call my realization of infinity. And I realized that the universe, the metaverse, whatever it is that the multiverse is what most people call it, that it is truly infinite, that we do not exist within anything finite. We live within infinity. Reality is infinite. And that was it just clicked within me. And all of a sudden it was like waking up in the Matrix, and everything was ones and zeros. Everything was ones and zeros. And I could literally feel my free will, almost like driving through this kind of realm of possibility. And I could see everything as a realm of possibility. And so I started kind of looking into that more, and looking more into the transcendental. And and the philosophy of the infinite. And I actually only recently stumbled upon somebody who was able to point me in the right direction philosophically to have a better concept of these things. And he has completely changed my life. His name is Hyperhumanity. He's on TikTok. So maybe
okay.
He actually talks a lot about Sophia as well. And he's challenged me a lot as well on, the concepts of universalism, things in Eastern philosophy that I had kind of held to. But what he introduced me to was the concept of ontological mathematics and certain philosophers like Leibniz and Hegel and
Hegel. It's all of that's woven. Literally, it's the tapestry of these theosophical teachings. It's the exact same thing, and I think it's wonderful that we're actually able to look at the exact same thing and actually recognize that we're talking about the same thing, and then finally start acting on the exact same thing, which is compassion and understanding and the connectedness and the way you speak of infinity and you make it understandable, relatable. It's just inspiring. I'm hoping that the people that come across your channel, again, please give her a follow. I've met her at Infinite Erin on TikTok, but she also has Mystic Ceremony, which I'm not following yet, but I need to do that right now.
That's just for my weddings. But to close, it's all about rationalism, right? It's all about using Sophia, wisdom, and knowledge and ration to come to the truth, because that is the ultimate enlightenment, is the ultimate absolute truth. And we cannot get there through subjective delusion. I
want those who are watching to know, who are in the theosophical circles, what you're hearing right now, what you're hearing, this synonymousness, as she's talking about the mathematics and the science and all of this. It doesn't mean, because she's not using the word theosophy, that it isn't the same stuff. So even in our teachings, it says there's more theosophists out in the world that are not using the word theosophy than there are inside the Theosophical Society. I want to remind you of that. That's what we're doing here on this channel. It is a matter of whoever brings you to these teachings, that the power is within you to go ahead and become a better you, for a better future for all beings. You are connected with everything and everyone. As above, so below means the ever expanding universe. The multiverse she talked about is you as well. This consciousness is in you as well.
Girl, you got me talking. I have so many questions for you too.
Bless you. You can ask a couple if you want. I might cut them out because it's not about me. It's about you today. But
yeah, it's funny because as you were saying earlier about how this world so resembles hell, and that was an ancient Gnostic belief.
Voice of the Silence is where I got Mialba, which is this is any man inhabited planet is greater than any hell that Dante could come up with, because the suffering is so massive, and it is called Mialba. And we are here to overcome ourselves, to subdue ourselves, our lower nature, which is the brute and the beast within, which is where all evil comes from. Man, it isn't an exterior force, it's an interior choice. It is man. There are dark entities that feed off the emotions of man. I try to stay with the writings that I know that are the purest that I can find, which Helena Petrovna Blavatsky is a secretary or scribe by her own admission. She wrote down quite an amazing collection, probably the most important collection over the last several centuries. But there's Jakob Bohm. If you look at Jakob Bohm, you look at Manly P. Hall, listen to Manly P. Hall. His stuff, it's the same stuff, Secret Teachings of All Ages. Go back to Plato, Pythagoras, Paracelsus. These mathematicians, they're theosophists. Yes, this is, I don't want to say they're theosophists. Okay. Yeah. So they're not going to say, oh, I'm a theosophist, but what they're doing is these are the teachings coming through. So if you go back to Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah, if you go back to the Vedas, the Upanishads, you go to Rumi, the Sufi poet Rumi, just read his stuff. That's that stuff.
How would you see Christianity in relation to theosophy? That, I guess, maybe there's
that is a very, very good question. In theosophy, they call it's called churchianity. They call it churchianity because they're trying to describe the organized I want to say corruption, and I'm going to say corruption. Are you writing that down?
I did.
That's hilarious. They say it's churchianity, which is literally, it's the lower ego of man to control mankind. It's greed, selfishness, ignorance, superstition, and fear. It is massive and rampant, and it needs to be, the churches, the buildings are beautiful, but the division needs to be destroyed. And it isn't just Christianity. It's any organized religion that I've seen in your TikToks when you talk about the destruction and the division and the hatred and the wars and the murder that we've done under the name of a loving God. We have to stop this. We have to stop this. So in Theosophy, that's the thing. It's been slandered quite a bit. It's been spun because the church, of course, would love for you to think that it's satanic because it gives you the power back to the humans to be able to find the divine within them. Nature, it's no longer about giving money to for gold ceilings in big fancy buildings. It's about finding truth, love, the ability, the hidden laws in natures, the abilities within man to become the best that we possibly can for the best of all beings, to ease the unnecessary suffering of all beings on our planet is what if I was to boil it down to one sentence, and if I was to boil it down to one word, it is compassion. Of course, the church would hate that because they're going to say, you need to give me cash because we need to be able to control the world because but it's politics. They're a state. They're not a religion. It has nothing to do even with the heart. It's about control. So in the theosophical teachings, when they talk about this, is we need to look for the commonalities through all the world's religions, sciences, and philosophies. Start there is what they advise. There is no dogma. You don't have to believe a certain way to be a theosophist. All you have to do is just, if you're compassionate, I think I might have sent you the video that says anyone can be a theosophist. It's about if you're compassionate and you wish to do good for the sake of doing good, and you don't want to, it's not about you, and then you want to be able to plant trees where you never see the shade, that kind of stuff. That's all the same stuff. So as far as it would be any organized religion, it is 75% of the world's suffering and evil comes from organized religion trying to be organized and controlling. And that's man. It's literally about man. Religion doesn't have very little to do with God and everything to do with man. And what is God? Are we atheists? No, it's the divine is within you. All of the avatars said that. Every avatar has come through and said, become Buddha, become the Christ, become compassion. No, don't follow somebody. No supernatural superhero is going to come down and save you. It's inside you. They've all said that. The church doesn't like that.
That's just, it really is one of the, I think one of the evils of Christianity as well. This idea that everyone is a sinner and that no one can be perfect like Christ was. He was the only perfect being. And it's just like, where's the enlightenment in that? Where is the hope in that for one's self? You know? Let them say it's satanic because you know what? Satan means the adversary. Well, the adversary to what? Right?
The church. Yeah.
The adversary to the church. Sure. I'll be what is a rose by any other name? Like, call me what you want. Like, I don't care. The Bible, as a sacred text, that concept, I think that what we really need to remember as well is that this text was never meant for the layperson. It was never meant for the uneducated, uninitiated, the people that don't understand the higher level stuff. Even when it was first written, it was never meant for the masses. When people wrote back then, it wasn't that we didn't have mass publication, And so even back then, but when it's taken into context in this like larger secular context, it's like, the way that they interpret it it just has completely strips it of all its meaning, and all of its interesting stuff. And I definitely wouldn't even necessarily put it as one of the highest sacred texts as well. Like Plato is like, there's a lot more to learn from like people of ration than, some of this stuff as well, in my personal opinion.
No, that's fine. And there's so much left out that has been cut out of the Bible, again, to control man, and then to take it literally as it is. These are myths, legends, and parables, allegories coming through, and we are taking them literally. We need to look at them. And if you see them, if you cross-reference in the Bible and the Kabbalah and even the Quran and I want to say even all of them, take them, put them together, you'll start to see them telling the same story. Put it together with the secret doctrine, you'll see this creation. You'll see the where they talk about the Virgin Mother. This is a way of describing the universe coming into being. And it's highly scientific and mathematical. It's quantum physics. And they're trying to explain it in a way that you can understand. So the Garden of Eden and all these things, these are parables. So we need to take a look at, see what it is, the commonalities. Let's look and see. And that's, so yes, I do believe what you're saying. It's absolutely.
People just, they don't understand spiritual symbolism, and they don't understand the core forms, the core, the philosophies. It's almost kind of like trying to use stories to describe calculus to somebody.
Yeah.
You just can't, it's unless you know calculus, like unless you actually knew calculus and like, oh, it's like a wave, and you knew that that's what you were trying to get to through this story. Like it just doesn't work for most people. Because the education isn't there. The foundational education isn't there.
It's so beautiful to hear it come out of you so naturally and organically. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being out there, suiting up, showing up, and hammering through all of the drama. I want you to know that you are such a bright light. You are a beautiful soul. And I'm so grateful to have connected with you. We're very happy to have you come on and share your stuff here. I love you. I love you. Give us a follow. Thank you for watching all the way through. If you would please click like, subscribe, and share. It helps get the message out there to everyone who needs to hear it. I love you. Thank you for being here.